Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Bhadram Karnebhihi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyema Akshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangaistushtuvaagumsastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarkshyo arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspatir Dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's chant the seventh mantra. Nantaf pragyam na bahish pragyam no bhayataf pragyam na pragyanaganam na pragyam na pragyam adrishtam avyavaharyam agrahyam alakshanam achintyam avyapadeshyam ekatma pratyayasaram prapancha upashamam shantam shivam advaitam chaturtham manyante sa atma sa vigneyaha. So as we saw, this is the description and the definition of you. Sa atma sa vigneyaha, that is to be known. So this is the crux of Vedanta, that Atma should be known. Drashtavyaha iti shrotavyaha mantavyaha nididhyasitavyaha. So this is what Vedanta is all about. It should be known. So now there are people who say, how can that be? How can you remove your issues and problems of life just by knowing yourself? You have to do something. You have to do some prayers. You have to improve your whole mental capacity. There's a lot of things that you need to do. You can't just say, by knowing myself, I'm going to be free. This is the objection that we are taking. Very important discussion, really. I think this is the core of Vedanta. This is where we need to do vichara. This is where mananam means. Mananam means vichara. We sometimes just say, this is shravanam, and this is mananam, this is nididhyasitam. What does it really all mean? So really, this is all paroksha jnanam. But the aparoksha jnanam is that we need to listen. Somebody says, you're making a mistake about yourself. I said, I am? How is that possible? This is how it is possible. Then I have to think about it. Because the person who says this has now told you what needs to be done and has now moved on to some other things. So it's good that you can stay with the teacher for a while, but it's your life. Now something has been told to you. You have to figure out, really? How is that real? Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Yes. Yeah, but then I have some questions for the teacher. And so you remove your doubts and so on. You do vichara. This is what mananam is. Vichara is mananam. There's nothing, something that I have to do. What are you doing? I'm reading mananam. No. I have to do vichara, my own thinking. So this is what it all about is. This is what we're doing, is mananam. So here, the people who doubt Vedanta, who don't agree with Vedanta, don't understand Vedanta, who have an objection to Vedanta, say, this is silly. Just by knowing yourself, how can you be free? This is not. So we say, okay, I understand your doubts and so on, but let us ask you, what is the reason for your doubts? Let's examine that, okay? We accept your doubt, but we need to understand where is the doubt coming from, what the objection is coming from. So this is what we are doing. We started with these three things from the last class. So we actually propose this. He says, okay, your objection can be coming from one of three reasons. One is that it doesn't work. That by knowing something, it can't work. The phalam is not possible. This is one thing. And this we have already answered in the last class. And what we said was that yes, it's possible that by knowing, if you had a mistake about yourself, once by knowing the mistake goes away and the miss goes away and it's only the take. It's possible. Yeah, we gave so many examples. We gave the example of the tree stump, the example of the classical example of the rope and snake, the example of the space being blue. There's so many examples. And of course, the most important example, which is the 10th man's example, that no matter how well you think you know, there is a certain aspect that you are confused about, and once that confusion is resolved, you'll become okay. So we gave the answers to the first objection, which is phalam. Right? Okay. Now we go to the other two objections, possibilities of other two objections. One is phalam. The second one is pramanam. And the third one is sadhana. So what that means is, how can you get a result from knowing yourself? We've already answered that. The second one is pramanam. Where is the proof? Show me the proof. You're postulating something. You're giving examples about the tree stump and so on and so forth. But where is the proof that it actually works? This is called pramanam. And the third one is sadhana. Sadhana means, what do I need to do then? Same issue. That you cannot achieve something by knowing, you've got to do something. So that objection we will do later on. In today's class, we are going to focus on the second objection, which is pramanam. So, briefly, let's talk about both sadhana and pramanam together, and just a little bit. And then afterwards, we will focus on pramanam alone. Okay, so give me a few minutes. I'm just following the script of the description, Swami Akhandananda's discussion. If you have the Hindi book, this is on page 423, 424. Okay? So, the reason for this objection is, and by the way, this objection is this doubt, rather, not even just an objection, just a doubt, is very prevalent in the study of the Vedic scriptures, even in India. Forget about non-Vedic viewpoints like Buddhism, Jainism, and of course Christianity and Islam and all those other kind of viewpoints. But if you look at just the pantheon of the Hindu thought, there also this is a very important doubt and a very important objection. If you go and supposing you go to India and visit all these, there are millions of people who are involved in thinking about this. You know, there are the number of temples, number of classes, millions in India and elsewhere also, but in India. And if you go and talk to them, they will also have similar doubts. So this kind of Vedantic thinking, this sampradaya, this pure Adi Shankara is very rare. Very, very rare. Not easy to find. I'm very, very fortunate to be in the teaching of this. But the arguments and so on are so wonderful that you begin to see how this works. So here, just look at the totality of the pramana and sadhanam in other Vedic thoughts also. Forget about the non-Vedikas, just the Vedikas itself. So the objection is, okay. You say that if you know the self as Brahman, this is what you say. If you know the self as nothing but Brahman, you are done. But the question is, how will you behave after that? How can we recognize you that you are the knower? There must be some signs that we can see and then say, yes, this person knows. You know, this is very interesting. If you look at the Arjuna's question in the second chapter, which is the end of the second chapter. So the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita is a remarkable one because it actually gives you the entire spectrum of what the teaching is. It actually shows you what the problem is. It shows you what the solution is. It shows you the problems in following the solution is, and it gives you the result. So, Ashocyan Anvashochastvam, starting with the problem, is the saying you are making a mistake. You think you are killing, you think you are going to be killed, you think that the war is the reality, is a mistake. No one kills anybody. The Atma cannot be touched by anyone. You cannot kill anyone. No one can kill you. It's not possible, my dear. No way. So this is the teaching. And then the teaching is the Karma Yoga, which means that this is the fact, but if you don't quite understand it, there are reasons why you don't understand it. Let me go over those with you. How do you make yourself understand? Because it is the truth. This is the Karma Yoga. And then Bhakti Yoga, all of that is summarized. Later on, of course, it is expanded into separate chapters. But in the beginning, all of that is summarized in the second chapter. Then in the end, it is shown, so Sri Krishna says that just by knowing, you're done, you'll be done. So the Arjuna now has a question. Okay, I don't quite get it, but at least I'm accepting what you're saying. How will this person behave? So this starts the very important section of Sthita Prajna. Sthita Prajna means the one who is Jivan Muktaha, one who is free while living, who has seen the whole thing very clearly. How do we recognize that person? So this is what it says in the start of the Sthita Prajna section. I think it's 54. Chapter 2, verse number 54, he says, Arjuna uvacha sthita pragyasya ka bhasha kim prabhasheta kim asita vrajeta kim. This is what Arjuna asks. So Arjuna says, for a sthita prajna, what is the speech of the Sthita Prajna? How does he talk? So, this is very true that many of the so-called gurus and teachers, they have to be very careful in talking. We have to tell you, this is a very deep subject. Please listen carefully. So there is a certain way of talk and a certain way of even of appearing. You have to have a big beard and your head should be covered. Nobody wants to see a bald head. So it should be all that. And then you have to wear all these ochre clothes and appear. That means this person really knows. And then, Sthita Pragyasya ka bhasha kim prabhasheta. How does he give the discourse? Then kim asita. How does he sit? Kim vrajeta, when he walks, how does he walk? So this is the question. So understand the importance of this question. The important question is that once the person, you're telling me that by knowing you are free, right? That's what you're telling me. This questioner says, this doubter says. Now the question is, once this is done, how does the life appear to this person? And how does he behave? How does his, and then, this is so funny, there's so many views to this. And in fact, this is where yoga and Vedanta split. Up to a point, we accept many of the things that the yogis do, that you have to do yama, niyama, all that, etc. But then in the end, it just completely becomes separate. Okay, and so we have to know all of that. So, for example, in the case of yogi, if you read the autobiography Yogi by Yogananda, you will remember that. I mean, I remember that from way back. His body has a very pleasant aroma in it, even after he died. And it does not, it actually stayed, I think there is a record that for several days the body did not deteriorate. There's a record of that somewhere, I think. So this is all the thing about yogi. So this is about yoga, which means that there's some siddhas. And of course we know that the yogis can live, hundreds of years. And they can rise themselves up from the ground. All of that is very simple stuff. Not simple, but it can be done. But this is not freedom. Not freedom. And so we differ from that. So this is something like this, he's just thinking, how do we recognize this person? How does he behave? What does he see? How does he see everything? Yeah, I remember this, we used to, in our satsang at PRC, sometimes we, of course, the students who were regularly in the class, the core students, we would not dare to ask Swamiji these kinds of questions. But sometimes you have visitors that come in and they're not students, but they can ask these kinds of questions. So it was interesting for us to even look at the questions, hear the questions of the visitors. So I remember this one visitor who said to Swamiji, Swamiji, how does it feel for you? How do you feel? You are a jnani. How does it feel? I remember that so well. And when that question was asked, we all said, yes, we want to know too. Our own students, we would not do this to Swamiji. Because what he was saying, we should supposed to be listening and thinking and so on. But a casual questionnaire would ask Swamiji, how does it feel? So we were all saying, okay, yes, sir, we need to know. And I remember Swamiji's answer. And it has to be done in a concise way. He's not going to talk about everything and so on. But he said, one feels very relaxed. Very relaxed. I feel totally worry-free and relaxed. This was his answer. Good answer. And I find that in my own understanding, as I begin to see it, this is exactly how I feel. I feel relaxed. I feel I don't have to do anything. I'm okay. So I can just tell you from that standpoint. But here, the questioner is, this is an important thing. What is the proof that the Sthita Prajna is really Sthita Prajna? How do we know that? What signs are there? So, the answer to this is very subtle and needs a couple of reading 2 or 3 times before you sort of understand this. Swami Akhandananda says, this is stupid. This is stupid, the way to look at it. And even the question of Arjuna was stupid. And this is why Sri Krishna doesn't directly answer it. Sometimes you say this is such a stupid question that you don't want to embellish it by answering it directly. So similarly here also, in the case of the answer to Arjuna's question, he doesn't say, oh, you know how he sits? He sits like this. And he does like this. And he talks like this. He doesn't say that. In fact, I can digress for a second. It's interesting. So there is what I have noticed in the teaching of the higher teaching is that Vedanta teaching comes in really two stages. I hadn't quite realized that for a long time until I really started reading it. So really thanks to Swami Akhandananda. It comes in two stages. One is the undergraduate stage and one is the graduate stage. And this will be, as we will discuss it, you will see this staging throughout. So I'll give you one example. This is what reminded me of it. The undergraduate stage is that to do Nidhi Dhyasanam, even in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, and if you look at the various acharyas, Swami Tattvavidananda and others and so on, when they give these instructions in the ashram, they will say how to meditate. You have to keep a line between your back and the head. And you have to be totally relaxed, but also very alert. And then you can do meditation. So this is the undergraduate level. Undergraduate level means follow this. Don't veer away from it. Don't just sit like this and so on and so forth. Follow this. You know what the graduate level is? Nidhi Dhyasanam can be done in any time, any level, any method, whether you are lying down or and this is exactly what we went through the Nidhi Dhyasana section when we taught that in that book that we also took in the ashram last year. Nidhi Dhyasana means doesn't matter. It's not necessary that you stay. And quite honestly, when I do my meditation in the morning, sometimes I'm just, whatever stage I'm in, I'm just like this. Sometimes I can do like this. And sometimes, it's not important. So this is the graduate and the undergraduate and the graduate level. So here it also says that this is silly to say how does he talk, when does he live and so on, because the reason is you think I am the body. You see, if you say how does he talk, how does he sit, how does he talk, all that, you are viewing this from the standpoint of the body. So it's as though the Brahma Jnanam is an ornament to the body. Beautiful argument. Really, I thought about this. So Swami Akhandananda says that if you ask questions like this, it clearly shows you don't understand. You are an ajnani. And this is why Krishna doesn't embellish it by saying this is how he sits. He says, when all the silly thoughts are gone from your mind, that is what is the pragya is. Nothing to do with how you sit or anything like this. How you view the whole thing to be just a glory of Ishvara. Even though it has no reality, but doesn't matter, it looks like a show. That's when you know. I mean, that's not when you know, but that's how you think when you know. So he doesn't even embellish it by thinking. So Swami Akhandananda also says it is very silly to say, so to bring back to the argument, that once you know, what do you do? How should you do this? How does you talk? This is silly because you are still viewing Brahmagyanam as an ornament to Jivatvam. You're a Jiva, you have a body. Now the question is, how do I make myself better and bigger? You don't have to make yourself better or bigger. You are already as big as you can be. That is the definition of Brahman. Brihat. Brihat means infinite. Do you understand that? No, I don't. Okay, then please try to think about that. So the question of the body itself is given up. Not as you're sitting there. You're not a sthita prajna, you're sthita deha. Anyway, this is the general thinking that, and this is what I was saying, that in the Vedic thought, there is a lot of confusion about this. Because people say, yeah, this you have to understand, but then you have to meditate. You have to do something. Otherwise it cannot, so you have to, and so we will cover all of that very shortly. The answer is no. Once you know, you know. There is nothing more that needs to be done. And if you feel you have to do something, this is okay for you to feel that I have to do something. It's not established in my mind yet. That's okay. You know what that means? Please just understand, you don't know. You don't know. You haven't really understood it. Because if you understood it, that's it. There's nothing to be done. And if you're hungry, after you understand it, then that is a natural phenomena from your prarabdha karma, then fulfill it. And if you don't want to fulfill it, then starve yourself to death. That's okay, no problems. But why do you want to just starve yourself and do something unnatural? Just enjoy eating, that's okay. So it is not what you do after knowing. It is all about knowing itself. This is the rare sampradaya that we are following. Okay, so that's just like a general introduction to the combination of pramana and sadhana. Now let us look into the individual aspects of pramana and sadhana individually. Okay, let's look at pramana first. So, what is pramana? What does pramana mean? Let's look into that. Just thoroughly understand. Pramana means proof in English. What is the proof? That's what pramana means. So now, our acharyas say that proof comes in two forms from outside besides what our own proof is. Again, if the source of proof is outside of us and about something other than us, there are two kinds of proofs. And as far as ourselves is concerned, that's a different matter altogether. So now let us look at the two kinds of proof that are outside. And so, so for those judges that have to resolve some kind of an event, some kind of a crime, a murder, or a rape, or something bad, sometime somewhere there was a conflict. So if they have to resolve this, they look for proof in order to give the right judgment, because they don't want to give a wrong judgment. Although that happens all the time, people get convicted for crimes that they never committed. And of course, people get free for crimes that they did commit. But those are human errors that can be done. But as far as resolving a conflict with respect to, the judges have to go with proofs. So there are two kinds of proofs that the judges have to resort to. One of them is an eyewitness. Eyewitness. When they say eyewitness, there is actually different kind of witnesses. Like, for example, the most important other kind of witness is hearing something. Hearing something. So they say that out of all kinds of sensual witnesses, the seeing witness is the most reliable. When you say, I saw this person commit this crime, yes, the judge has to be persuaded by that. Now you have to see whether the person is lying or not. That's a separate thing altogether. But he's got to rely on that. So this is called the first type of proof, which is eyewitness. The second, if there is no eyewitness, then there is a second type of proof. And this proof means how to resolve conflicts in similar cases in the history. This is what is called, this is what jurisprudence means. It means what kind of authoritative statements to take the help from. What does it say? In other countries and in our country and in the past, what is it written down? And I have to give a judgment based on that. I can modify it a little bit based on some special cases. But I have to resort to something that is written down. In other words, an authority, a legal authority. And so this is why we have different kinds of judges. And I keep thinking of the Supreme Court, which is now so politicized. But the Supreme Court is supposed to give the final judgment, even against some of the lower courts, to say, no, they made an error, they did not consider this. It's based on these kinds of principles. So the second kind of proof is proof based on principles. Right? Those are the external two kinds of proof. So if we have to decide something other than ourselves, we can do vichara on one of these two proofs. Is there a witness? And if there is no witness, what do the authorities say? Authorities mean scriptures, schools of thought, people that have, well, there are intelligent, wise people that have looked into this. We have to resort to that. But now, if we have to do a vichara on ourselves, not on something else, then what? Can an eyewitness help? The eyewitness can only help if the person actually sees the entity, vastu. The name in the word in Sanskrit is vastu. Vastu means, we prefer not to translate a vastu as a thing, because a thing is inert. But a vastu means it can be inert or it may not be inert. Maybe jada could be chaitanya. So we use the word vastu. And I think I have just chosen the word entity. A bit more vague than a thing. So eyewitnesses only occur if the person has seen an entity. A person, let's say. Can they have seen you to make a judgment? No. Why not? Because we're talking about Atma, which is not, it cannot be seen, but it is behind all seeing. It cannot be thought about, but it is the basis of all thoughts. As the Kena Upanishad says, na chakshusha yat chakshusha na pashyati yena chakshumshi pashyati yat manasana manute yena ahuhu manomatam tat viddhi. May you know that. So that means that the eyewitness cannot give an evidence about something that it cannot see, it does not see, has not seen. So that means that the Atma, which is the very Atma of the witness itself, the person who is giving the witness, not possible. So the eyewitness is not possible. So this is the reason where, our doctors will say, when was the person born? They'll say, this baby was born at 10:48 on September 10th, 1965 or something like that. And there is actually a record. Record is examined by both the mother and the father. They say, yep, that's exactly right, 10:48. And so this is when the person is born. They are talking about the birth of the fetus, of the baby. They are not talking about the Atma. They cannot see the Atma. They are the very Atma that is seeing everything. So it is not possible, because the Atma is not visible. It is not manifested. This is what is called avyaktaha. The Atma is forever. It's not as though sometimes it is, sometimes like you go from sleep to waking, so you become avyaktaha from you're not visible to becoming visible. And that also is the part of the mind or the body. But the Atma is ever avyakta. This is a very important thing that we will need to think about and meditate on. Aham sada avyaktaha. So this is what Bhagavad Gita also says in the 25th verse of the second chapter. Avyakto yamachintyo yam avikaryo yamuchyate. Sri Krishna says about you, about Arjuna, he says, you are avyaktaha. You are in fact me, Arjuna says. Sri Krishna says. So that's possible. So now we don't have an eyewitness to me is not possible. Okay? Is there a pramana? So let's look at this next section, which is really important. This is very key to the whole thing. Is there a pramana for me being what I am? Is there a pramana necessary? This is the more important question. Not if there is a pramana or not, but is a pramana necessary for me? This is a very important question, a very important point of doing vichara. Because pramana is necessary when we don't have the proof and we need the proof, right? That's what pramana means. What is the proof? Because we saw what pramana means is to resolve whether the thing is there or not there. That's what proof means. Was it there or not there? And if it was there, in what form was it there? And if it was not there, what is the reason for it not? For how can you prove that it was not there? So the pramana is necessary when something needs to be proven. The question is, do I need to be proven? This is where the examination is. This is very, very, I think this is, if you and I don't do anything else, don't study Vedanta, don't study Upanishad, don't study Bhagavad Gita, nothing at all. We don't have the time. We don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the capacity. We don't have the interest. Whatever reason you come up with for not studying, if we simply look at these following facts that I'm going to discuss, you will lead to freedom. Okay. Do I need pramana? First of all, do I exist or not? Do I need a pramana for my being there? No. I need a pramana for what I am, how I am. I need a pramana for that, but I don't need a pramana for the fact that I am. No one needs to tell me that I am. Someone needs to tell me whether I'm asleep or not. Someone needs to tell me how I look. So those are secondary things that we will look into that later. But no, I don't ask anyone for proof as to I am or not. So there are certain things that don't need a pramana. Almost everything else needs a pramana except for this, that I am. Okay? All right. Let's go forward. Do I know that I am? Do I need to have a proof about the fact that I know that I am? No. I am, and I know that I am. These two things don't need a pramana. Third, the last one. Do I need to know whether I like myself or not? I'm sorry. Do I need a pramana? Do I need for somebody to tell me whether I like myself or not? Someone can tell me whether I like that person or not. That may be in doubt. I may even have a doubt whether I love a person or not. Sometimes I may love a person, sometimes the same person I don't love. Sometimes I may like a person, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm doubtful whether I like the person or not. But is there any variation, any possibility that I don't like myself? No. So the fact that I am not a source of dislike is just as clear as I am, and I know that I am. So this is what is called Parama Prema Aspadam, which means that in fact, I am the yardstick I am the very fulcrum, the very kutastha, the very basis of judging whether I like someone or not. This is a very important vichara. See this fact. If I did not constantly constantly like myself, not even without attempt, just as a natural thing, I will never be able to behave in a consistent manner with the rest of the world. Because if I don't like someone, it is because it causes an obstruction in my liking myself. If I don't like myself, it is because my mind, which is a possibility of dislike, is covering me. This is exactly what happens for people that commit suicide. See, this is a very important thing to see. We're talking about a very extreme case, which is that of someone who is so desperate that they are ready to end their life. So consider what happens. That also is an expression of constantly liking myself. Why? Because their mental covering, their mental covering means their mind, their thoughts, their conclusions are unacceptable. I don't like what I'm going through. And I'm not like that. You see, to the very action of committing a suicide is a assertion of the fact that this is not good for me. I don't like this. I just like myself. And I cannot live in these conditions. There's no way that I can resolve this covering of sorrow on me. And must be a better way. So I'm just going to go. And many of us don't go to that extreme. But when we get angry, let's take anger, which is kind of like a lower form of really suicide in a way. Because for whatever reason, it's not that bad yet, but it's pretty bad. So I lose myself. And the reason I lose myself in the anger is because what is happening to my mind, to me and the events, is unacceptable to me. Because that's not who I am. There is an affirmation that I like myself. So this is a very important thing. And that means look at the totality of this. I don't need proof that I am. I don't need a proof that I know that I am. And there is no proof needed about the fact that I like myself. Aham Ananda Swarupaha. Aham Chit Swarupaha. Aham Sat Swarupaha. There is no proof needed. And even if there is a proof that puts some doubt in it, I will not accept it. Because it's a fact. If somebody says, you are not there, will I not laugh at that person? If someone says, you don't know that you are there, will I not just say, is there something wrong with this person? Is he fit to go to a mental hospital or not? And if someone says you're an unhappy person, that clearly means that the person doesn't know me. He's looking at my, sometimes if I'm angry, so my eyes are very different. And there is all the poets, for example, all the rasas that you see in dances, just from the eyes. So this is the expression of the rasas in Natya Shastra, where the eyes can express everything: love, affection, relief, anger. This is what in Bharatnatyam you see the natakas and natakis do this just from their faces and eyes. So others can see that you are unhappy, but they don't know my inside. They only see, and in fact, I sometimes also feel that I'm unhappy because I'm also looking at the same erroneous cover that others are looking at. So anyway, now we can summarize. This is a very crucial, really, way of looking at it. Very important. And often somehow not talked about in the traditional way of learning. I don't know how why. This is what it's all about. I don't need pramana for myself. I don't need it. Even if the Shastra comes in tomorrow. Supposing there's some advanced Upanishad, highly secret and so on, and you go and study it, and it says finally you are not there. Will I accept it? Do I need anybody's confirmation? Do I need any acceptance? Am I looking for it? No. So the fact that I am Satchidananda doesn't need any proof. No pramana necessary. I'm alive, I'm there. Even if I'm sleeping, I'm there. I'm alive. My consciousness is still there, and it's simply saying I don't see anything. That's all. But it is there. Sleep doesn't interrupt it. Dream doesn't interrupt it. Waking state doesn't interrupt it. There is ananda in all three of them in some way. In sleep there is total ananda. In the dream and Jagrata Avastha there is some mixture of covering and non-covering. But there also I never lose sight of the fact that I am the very nature of dislike. This is an important thing to see. That any kind of non-acceptance is also a proof of the fact that I never doubt that I am who I am. And if there are some experiences that are troubling, my rejection of those experiences also is a proof of the fact that I don't like it, because that's not who I am. And if I make myself a mistake of feeling that I am not happy, I need to resolve that. And if there are some other people that make me feel unhappy, I don't like them. But if there are other people who make me feel who I am and I'm happy, I like them. So my feeling of my behavior of with others also is nothing but an expression of the fact that I like myself. So this Satchidanandaha doesn't need a pramana. Doesn't need a pramana. Now the question is, so are you telling me if you don't need a pramana, you don't need a proof, why are we studying Vedanta? Why are we studying Vedanta? Everybody should be, why do we say that that person is an agyani, I'm trying to be a jnani, all of those kinds of things. If everybody knows that they are Satchidanandaha, then why study? So there's something not right with this picture. On one hand, you say that you don't need any proof. You don't need any proof for being as the fact that aham sat swarupaha, I am. You don't need any proof for saying I'm chit swarupaha, that I know that I am. And you don't need any proof for being ananda swarupaha, that I am no possibility of my not liking myself. No possibility, because I am ananda swarupaha. It's not imposed on me. If this is the case, everybody knows that I am Ananda. That means everybody should know that I am Satchidananda. Then why are we going through all this study and meditation and mananam and vichara and all those kinds of things? Why? We will see that answer next class. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Satchidananda. All right. Good to have you in the class. Don't see any questions that I need to answer, so I will take your leave and we will see you next week. Thank you.